Good day, everyone. I'm Carl Gosingco from STEM 11C Unity. And today I'm going to present to you our concept paper of identifying effective precautionary measures against an airborne transmitted pandemic in the Philippines. The proponents of this study is the Ramos, Gosingco, Nengasca, and Paganpan. So to start things off, we're going to go to our statement of the problem. So the statement of the problem of us of ours are first is the recent pandemic known as COVID-19 spreading in the Philippines. So as you may all know, um, during this video I am doing, COVID-19 is spreading and causing damage to the lives of many people around the world and more in the Philippines. So that is our problem. The second is the lack of preparedness of the Philippines against an airborne transmitted pandemic. So, because of the lack of the preparedness of the Philippines, meaning its government or health authorities, um, the the rising case of patients who are getting infected and the number of patients dying because of the pandemic is increasing because of that lack of preparedness. So, because the government failed or at least did not prepare or properly calculated how to handle this, um, that is the reason why many people now are getting infected, and we are now facing their strategy of ECQ. Now we're gonna go to the third state of the problem is the insufficiency of the authorities in planning and handling the pandemic. Just I've said, just as I have said in the statement of problem number 2, the insufficiency of the authorities in planning and handling the pandemic is lacking or at least have many miscalculations or flaws in them. So I so because of this, many people now are scared, suffering, or having a trouble or having trouble living their lives and are being restricted to go out because of the pandemic. Next is the significance of the study. So, the study aims to help, firstly, the Philippine government. The Philippine government will benefit to this study, for they will be provided with a further understanding and information of steps in mitigating similar pandemics by past governments. This includes the miscalculations and the productive steps. In addition, with this study, they will reevaluate the current strategies and plans to minimize future miscalculations. This will be followed by the health officials and health workers. The study will also be beneficial to them in such a way that it will allow them to understand the previous methods done by past officials and medical staffs in obtaining data that are new and procedures in isolating patients. Furthermore, the study will the study also benefits them in lessening the burden of increasing infection rate from proper implementations of the authority, thus reducing the risk of frontliners getting infected. So the next people that this study will help is the local community. The local community will considerably benefit to this study in a way by having a proper, effective, and scientifically planned mitigation method of authorities with coordination with health officials. The community are less susceptible in contracting pandemic diseases. The study will also benefit them in a way of allowing the community to further understand the effectiveness and benefits of the current and past mitigation strategies, which in turn provides justification in the following the safety measures implemented by the authorities. So lastly, this study can provide help to the global community. The global community will benefit to this study as well, for they can use it as a new way of understanding how one country handled the pandemic and what strategies are used to combating it. With this study, The global community will be able to learn and use past strategies that work in similar cases in combating present pandemics. And also, on a side note, this will be an advantage for the future researchers with similar research studies, for it can provide them more ideas, references, and basis to further improve the research of past strategies in mitigation that are used by past authorities in combating pandemics. So after that, the significance of the study, we will go to our objectives. The objectives of the researchers is firstly to identify the most effective and suitable precautionary measures to be taken amidst an airborne transmitted pandemic in the Philippines. So if the researchers can must identify or need to identify effective and suitable precautionary measures to be used or at least modify it in forming new ways of of sorry for the long wait. So um by identifying the most effective and suitable precaution measures to be taken in this or in pandemics, the researchers can use those measures and form them into proper mitigation plan for future pandemics that can be used too by other countries and the Philippine government. The next is compare and contrast actions taken from previous airborne transmitted pandemics. So by comparing and contrast actions taken from those, we can know what are the negatives and the positives of those measures that are used. So those are both the if it's ethical, if it's effective, or it has significant impact that can lead to more proper mitigations that can limit the that can limit or at least help fade away the pandemic. Sorry. The next is determine the insufficiencies and preparedness gaps for such to be taken actions. Just like in the compare and contrast in the second, by determining the insufficiencies and preparedness gaps for for such to be taken actions, we can know what measures that are susceptible to fail or at least um, limit the miscalculations of future mitigation plans. So the next is create a hazard mitigation prevention and an intervention plan against an airborne transmitted pandemic if ever such might occur and reoccur again. So that. The next is help in decreasing the impact of future pandemic in the country, especially in its economic state. Next is minimize the loads of the health institutions and other frontliners, and provide support to the government and medical agencies in managing and ceasing an airborne transmitted pandemic. So as you may all have known, in the current pandemic of COVID-19, due to the unpreparedness of both the government and the medical agencies or and authorities that that are currently operating now, um, many health institutions and frontliners are battling the large numbers of people getting infected, leading to insufficient protective gears for the frontliners and um, stress for them because they have to work more hours to cater those many people who are getting sick. So by provide so by using by using this study, we hope that if the government can use this and fix the and no fix I mean plan a proper mitigation or at least prevention for a wide scale pandemic, then the situation of future pandemics can be more controlled and can be less training for the medical institutions and workers. So this will lead to more time being invested in research for development of new vaccines or new treatments or isolations or any tests that can benefit um, pandemic cases, and less less time catering people who are getting sick. But the long-term objective of our study is give assistance in creating enhanced precautionary measures, interventions, and mitigations plans against disease outbreaks if ever such might occur and reoccur in the future. So with that, we're going to go to our research questions. Our first research questions is, what are the suitable interventions and precautionary measures that should be taken amidst a disease outbreak in the Philippines? Next, how did the country act upon or against the previous airborne transmitted pandemic and COVID-19? It is followed by what are the impacts of the previous airborne transmitted pandemic and COVID-19 in the Philippines, and how to minimize the impact of an airborne transmitted pandemic in the Philippines. It is lastly followed by what are the essential measures that a country must acquire and establish to be a pandemic ready. So with those research questions said, we're going to go to our research hypothesis. So the basis of the conclusion and formation of the mitigation plan is the result of a comparative effect of each mitigation strategies used by the government and health authorities in the Philippines in the past 120 years. The researcher study assumes that if the result and conclusion will be deemed scientifically successful and promises good results, then if ever in future similar events, more lives will be saved and the impacts to the economy and daily human life will not be as severe as the past pandemics. On the other hand, in our null hypothesis, if the researchers reach to the conclusion that the previous mitigation methods fail to achieve promising results and the effects of the failed method cause more severe impact to human civilization, the researchers will conclude that the study of identifying effective past precautionary measures against an airborne transmitted pandemic in the Philippines is a failed one and will seek more modern ways or formulate a new study. So basically, to get the alternative hypothesis, the researchers are gonna compile multiple studies showing from our past from our objectives, compare and contrast them, identifying them. By using those methods, we can formulate a proper mitigation method or plan that can be used not just by the government but medical agencies both nationwide, local, and even global. So by compiling those, we hope that the effect of that study and the proper implementation of the scientific community after their modification or adjusting it because of the strain of the new strains they're facing, they can reduce the severity of the pandemic in their country, in the lives of their people, economy, medical staffs, and more. So our preliminary literature is the community interventions to promote mental health and social equity, effects of hand washing and personal hygiene on hand food map, a community intervention study by Guo et al., the return of the city-state urban governments, and in New York H1N1 pandemic by Hoffman in 2013, and many more. So with that, we're gonna go to our method or methodology. First step in getting the study we want is first we need to gather the necessary data needed for the research. This is followed by analyze and study the data collected. By careful analyzing and comparing each of those mitigation methods, we can pinpoint what are the effectives and we can kick out what are the less effective ones that can be used. So after formulating and analyzing the data, the, the study collected data, we can interpret the findings and formulate a new mitigation plan. And that will be the end result of the study, which just like in our significance can be used by each of those categories for future pandemics. And I guess that is all. This is Claudio Gosingco signing off. Thank you.